Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a Earth Rune deck. This one is a little different to your most common Earth Runes. This one's a lot more interesting in my opinion. So we're starting out with triple Star Eater Stellars. Great card, amazing, has some really good potential. Opponents don't seem to really play around it much because they don't really expect it, which is great. It is easy to remove, but on that it's not that bad and fits as a nice 2-drop. I actually have found myself using it more often than I would have thought, and at 3 of it's extremely consistent. Another card that you might not see too often would be Rite of Exorcism, a great card for removing both amulets and enemies, which works in your favor against Dragon, Haven, and pretty much any other class that relies on bigger followers or amulets that can really screw you over. So that's a great way to remove those. We're also running a single Gingerbread House, mainly because it's just a 2 damage restore 2. That's literally it. Plus it adds an extra Earthright to this deck, which is really nice. We're running double Magic Founder. Magic Founder's main combos go with Piercing Rune. I believe, do they work with Gingerbread House? No, spells. So Gingerbread House wouldn't be classed as that. So just works with Piercing Rune. Works with Silverblade Golems, Verdict Rituals, which are crazy. That's the main kind of synergy. Honestly, I'd run 2 Silverblades if I had them, but one seems to be okay from my testing so far. I'd probably drop 1 Stellar and add in another Silverblade, and I'd probably drop Stellar 2-1 and run an extra Magic Founder as well. That would be my recommendation to changing this deck just a little bit. Otherwise, I think this is actually reasonably fine, and this deck runs quite nicely. It's also a little bit of fun, which is what you want with a deck these days. So we'll get right into it and take a look. So first up, we're taking a look at a Haven matchup. Haven matchups are always interesting, especially if you get the normal kind of Summit variant that floats around, because Rite of Exorcism absolutely demolishes Summit Haven in general. Do decide to drop the Carl and the Rite of Exorcism. I don't need them in the super early game, so there's no point holding onto them there. I do end up just redrawing the Carl anyway, and the Pure-Hearted Singer is good just for its draw power alone. I do decide to play the Starseer out on 1, mainly because I just want to get those Earth Sigils out as early as I can, so I'm not worrying about setting them up later. It's much easier to deal with them when they're already on the board than trying to get them on the board early. And turn 2, perfect. Star Eater Stellar fills out our curve nicely and will give us a chance to get a random card. And while we didn't get the best random card, it's not too bad. Stellar's also not completely random, but it's got so many cards in it that it could nearly be random.
This song's for you.
Then Pure-Hearted gives us the draw, not really giving us much to show for our efforts. But again, putting another threat on the board is going to be hard to deal with. And another Summit Temple, good. So we know they've burned 1 Summit Temple here, meaning they've only got probably 1 more in their deck at most. Most people don't run the silver that gives you a Summit Temple, so once we remove that Summit Temple, nothing more they can do. Plus we can just start filling the board a little bit. Sometimes you got to be careful not to overthrow your Earth Sigils too much, but on the other hand you also want to have enough out that when you play things they're going to be a threat and they're going to be hard to deal with. You do see the Tribunal of Good and Evil, a little bit of an annoying card, but still reasonably fine. We do get the Rite of Exorcism, which Starseer's Telescope will give us a draw at least, and we happen to get Silverbladed Golem, 1 of in our deck. That's why I recommend running 2, it would up its consistency a little bit, but that card can be absolutely crazy. Like, our hand alone, we've actually got 5 Verdict Rituals, sorry. That will allow us to deal massive amounts of damage, especially if we could get Founder onto the board. So they do deal with me pretty easily, I would say. Luckily for me, Master Mage, while burning a ritual, is still going to clear most of this out pretty easily. So I'm actually quite happy with that. Being able to just clear this board out, put a threat on the board, make it a little bit harder to deal with is kind of ideal.
You're done for.
So the Master Mage is going to trade really well, getting rid of that Snow White, creating the threat that we need, and only a couple turns out from the Silverblade Golem. Not far at all.
I slipped up.
They do deal with it with another Tribunal though, so we know they've at least spent 2 of those. Do decide to throw the Star Eater Stellar down and get rid of the Earth Sigil, not the Earth Sigil, the Amulet Summit Temple. We don't want that on the board at all. especially not going into turn 7 when they could potentially deal massive amounts of damage. It also means they've probably only got one more left, which for me is actually quite good. So I do decide to throw the Silverblade Golem to the board. We do have 4 Earthrights, so we're going to get 4 rituals, which is pretty good. I could have nearly went for 5 in the next turn, but I think now's the time to play it. Play it before their Tribunal can proc and before they have an easy way to deal with this.
From the heavens above, justice
They
is
do get the
delivered.
Heavenly Knight down and decide to trade.
Did you like it?
Don't do anything else though. Surprisingly, they didn't remove this 6/5, which was really weird. If it was me, I would have removed it instantly. Lucky for us, we get another Rite of Exorcism, which actually opens up the potential to deal a lot of damage. I think we actually have 14 this turn alone, and opens up lethal on the next turn, guaranteed. All we need to do is hit them with a ritual, and that is game over. And knowing Haven, they really can't do much against that. I think they were planning to take little damage, like so that I wouldn't attack, and then Tribunal and so on, so that they would limit it, but they didn't expect that Exorcism just to completely wipe them out. Next up, we're playing against Rune, surprisingly. Well, not really, but it's a little
I guess
surprising.
you're looking for a fight.
So we do get to go second, a
see you
little
in
awkward.
action.
Going first is usually better. We do decide to drop the Magic Founder just because I really wanted something else. I do keep the Gingerbread and Pure Hearted because they're both pretty good cards. Pure Hearted is great on 3 if I can just get it out if there's nothing substantial, and Gingerbread just works as a nice little clear on 3. And Silent Library is actually going to be really good on turn 2 because I don't really have anything else to play. Luckily we do get Telescope though, which is reasonably decent. Conjure Golem though, summoning itself to the board there. Not really much of a threat to me right now, especially when I can just drop my Silent Laboratory. Getting that little zombie. I do normally prefer the Clay Golems, but the zombie is fine. And Gingerbread, clear it, heal up, let us deal 2 damage. Basically puts us on the advantage instead of them now, which is what we were really after. Although they do go for that Piercing Rune. Does spend their whole turn though, so that's pretty crazy. And we do get Pure Hearted, so I'll take it. Magic Owl means they're most likely leaning towards a Daria deck, which this deck actually seems to do reasonably well against. It's definitely not the worst matchup with this one. Although Blade Mage is going to be a problem, especially when it's followed by an Ogla. We do need to remove basically as much of this as we can. Lucky for me, Carl and a Piercing Rune will remove at least 2 things while leaving Carl on the board, and allowing us to get that 1 extra health. The only problem is we are now basically board locked with Sigils, meaning Professor of Taboos next turn, while it'd be good, it's basically the only thing I've got that can deal with anything they play. So turn 6, another Magic Owl, not all that surprising, especially when they throw the Evolve to it. I mean, what are you going to do other than play double Owls and use them both? Another Blade Mage, going for a pretty good amount of damage, and of course Daria just to really mess with me. So my next option is literally just Professor of Taboos. What other choice do I have at this point other than throwing him to the board? He's definitely got some of the most powerful cards I could need for this game. And being able to throw him into the Daria and remove that 5 damage guaranteed was my best option by far. We also removed the Blade Mage, which is a little disappointing. We preferred to have hit the 4/3 Owl, but hitting the Blade Mage itself, not the worst option. It does mean they're unfavourable trade with a 4/3. Provided they can't clear anything here anyway. But they do end up being able to send as much as they want out of the face, which is gonna suck for me. I mean, being on 6, really not a good spot to sit at. But Piercing Rune, Magic Missile, that's going to be enough to at least remove the board. Then we just have to hope that Staria Stella can actually give us something useful. I mean, it's got some okay cards, like, yeah, Scorpius isn't bad. Got Bane, which is going to come in handy if we have to deal with any big threats. This was something like Silverblade Golem at 2 would have been better, just because our odds would be 1 in 13 instead of 1 in 26, which would have been much better. And now we have to remove both 2-drops, which Double Rite of Exorcism does really well. Not the most flashy way I could have probably done that, but at least doing it this way I can guarantee 6 damage to their face, and my Stella gets to stick around for another turn, so being able to give myself some advantage, I guess, is exactly what I needed this turn. Of course, Conjure Guardian. Pain in the ass little card. But with a nice little trade, you're going to leave them with 2 health left, so I'll take it. Especially because I can throw another Star Eater Stella to the board, upping our draw count even further. And double Star Phoenix, probably one of the best cards I could have pulled. Star Phoenix is great at removing threats and even better at just dealing damage. So, 2 of my best options would definitely be to draw Silverblade Golem. Next would be Young Levi, just because both of those will allow me to deal the damage I need for victory really quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be nearly impossible to actually get around this board. And Master Levi, perfect. 3 damage, plenty to deal with this Rune player, and enough to win us the game. So as you guys just saw, this deck definitely has its moments. It's definitely got some fun cards in it, and I think it's worth a shot if you've got some of the cards to build this deck. I wouldn't recommend building this if you're a new player or if you don't have the cards, because it would probably just be a waste of vials in the long run. But if you're, you know, a more, I would say, you know, you've been playing a couple of months, you've got a decent card collection, and just in general want to have some fun, this is a great deck to mess around with. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe. As always, deck list will be in the description below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.